Welcome to ACD Combatives, your combatives and control tactics channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hey guys, Coach Kurt here. So I got a phone call the other day from another LEO, another officer with my agency, and it's awesome. He started his jiu-jitsu journey, and now that this officer has a background in wrestling, and I think that's important to understand for the context of the story. If you have never trained with wrestlers, you're going to have an eye-opening experience if all you've ever done is jiu-jitsu. Wrestlers train differently. They have a really good, strong athletic base. Because of the rule set in wrestling, trying to get a wrestler on his back is trying to kiss a crocodile. It's not going to happen. They're going to fight you tooth and nail to stay off their back. And in jiu-jitsu, we could care less if we're on our backs because it's part of the game, the guard game, the whole guard game. Matter of fact, the Gracies like to say the guard is the secret weapon of jiu-jitsu. And that's true to an extent. But if you talk to somebody who does jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu for MMA, for example, they will tell you, yeah, a guard is great and dandy, but you still don't want to be on the bottom in a real fight. In MMA, you'll see people trying to stay off their back and stay out of the guard if they can. You absolutely need to know how to fight from a guard, but when you start introducing strikes to any fight scenario, it changes things. It changes this from a sporting match to a fight. And it's kind of the context of the phone call was the gentlemanly rules that go along with jiu-jitsu that this individual wasn't familiar with because they're used to training in a grappling environment when they wrestle. And again, anyone who's wrestled knows that it's a pretty intense situation. They really grapple like it's the last thing they're going to do on earth. They're fighting in training 110%. Wrestlers have some of the greatest work ethic in a mat room that I've ever seen. Where jiu-jitsu can be like, I've rolled at gyms where we put our Bob Marley on, the reggae music in the background, and we're just relaxed and rolling, and it's great training. It's lots of fun, but it can be a very different environment. So what am I getting at? There are things you just don't do in jiu-jitsu. Like he was bringing up a conversation starter about it at the law enforcement academy that our agency attends. They actually have some really basic jiu-jitsu in the academy, and one of the things they teach is when somebody's got their closed guard that you use your elbows on the inside of their thighs to break it open and pry them open. That would be a pain compliance technique or a way of opening the guard. It's not that does not exist in jiu-jitsu, but it would be considered unsportsmanly in jiu-jitsu. A lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, they would call that a dick move, where you're doing pain compliance to get somebody to comply. For example, at my gym, I now understand. I come from my instructor, my professor, is absolutely 100% jiu-jitsu black belt, but before he got into jiu-jitsu, he was a catch wrestler and in the catch game, and he owns an MMA gym. So every time we're on the mat, regardless if it's a jiu-jitsu class or MMA class, it doesn't matter. Now I primarily just go to the jiu-jitsu classes like twice a week. I go to the noon classes because it's an older crowd and I'm not getting any younger, but he still brings up all the time. Now remember, from this position, you've got to protect yourself from punches. If you are in an MMA match or if you're in self-defense, think about bringing them in where you're opening yourself. That's a discussion all the time. Like we had a guy just this last week when I went to my last class. He had a fight this last weekend, which he won. Congratulations, brother, if you're watching the video. He won it in the first round. But to ground and pound, he mounted the guy, and they stopped a technical knockout by, ground and pound. The ref stopped the fight, and that's a good example. In MMA, that's a total world changer, and you would never do that in a regular sport jiu-jitsu class. He was wearing his gloves for for that last session we trained, because he wanted to get used to the idea of wearing gloves again before he fought MMA. Very different world. And the things you would do in MMA grappling, like putting your hand over somebody's mouth or nose, to get them to create space, that would be a dick move in jiu-jitsu. So that's the kind of things I'm talking about. So jiu-jitsu is a great sport. It should be primarily, in my mind, you should be able to go to a school knowing you're going to get the best of both worlds. I call it universal jiu-jitsu, where you train jiu-jitsu for everything. But I don't even plan to anything past Ezekiel chokes or collar chokes or bow and arrow type chokes, real basic gi stuff. I don't care about it, because I only practice twice a week my regular jiu-jitsu, and if I'm lucky I get a third MMA day in every week with my training partner Aiken or Krav or some variation thereof. And then I'll hit the heavy bag once or twice a week on my own, doing kickboxing workouts. So I try to keep my crap real basic and real universal. But I have the benefit of going to a jiu-jitsu school where dirty tricks, we're really, don't get me wrong, everybody's super gentle on each other. Nobody gets hurt at my school. I've never been hurt, and I don't see people getting hurt. But certain things wouldn't be construed in our gym as dick moves. It would be just good technique, knowing that you would never use that in a tournament or something, or if you were at a seminar at another gym. So if you have a limited amount of gyms in your area, you may be stuck with a sport gym where they're going to do a lot of sport technique, and it's better than not doing jiu-jitsu at all. You just have to remember, if it's not brought up in your jiu-jitsu class, that you personally have to have the etiquette and protocol in the back of your mind that I could do this on the street, I could do this in an MMA match, the kind of things that I'm talking about. And again, I'm talking about like pain compliance to get your way on the mat, to impose your will, versus good technique. And it's not that we don't use good technique at my gym, we really do, but because it comes from a catch background or MMA approach to jiu-jitsu, it's looked at differently at my school. So that might be what you're looking for if you're in law enforcement, or you just want to be in self-defense because you're a Joe citizen, you don't have any desire to compete per se, but you just want to do self-defense, be a weekend warrior like me. You might want to focus on trying to find a school that thinks more like that versus a sports gym. The Gracies call it flipping the switch from sports to self-defense. And that's another good example. In Gracie Combatives, for example, I do that video on Gracie Combatives. The entire Combatives program, which I highly recommend, I don't care if you do jiu-jitsu at a regular school like me, or you don't have any other choices, maybe you have a training partner but you don't have any gyms around, Gracie Combatives is great. But that entire program is designed to be self-defense oriented. It's no sport in Gracie Combatives. For example, breaking the guard, they teach like what I call the Krav guard break, because that's the way I was taught in Krav Maga. I'm not doing like a knee split, breaking the guard. I'm doing like a boom boom, or I'm doing like a can opener type thing to open them up. Can opener, perfect example of what I'm talking about. If done wrong, you set yourself off an armbar, but the can opener done correctly is a great way to pop somebody's guard open. Where at a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, that would be a no-go. You don't do the can opener position. Stuff like that. And it can be done safely and it can be done intelligently. It's knowing the school and knowing the technique and knowing your training partner. I hope I made myself clear about what I'm trying to talk about, sport versus non-sport jiu-jitsu. And if all you have in your area is sport, then that's what you're stuck with. Anyway, guys, I'll wrap it up. I'm probably going too long. Everybody like, subscribe, and share, and stay safe.
I challenge you to a duel. I accept.
Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out.